Welcome to the Delish Guestlist podcast, a deep dive into the lives and work of Hong Kong's crazy food and beverage industry leaders, hosted by The Beat Asia. Today, we sat down with Edgar Sanuy, the Director of Culinary Operations and Development of Epicurean Restaurant Groups, leading restaurants and bars in Hong Kong. The Catalan chef is in charge of planning, developing, and creating new menus and directions in the group, specifically for leading Spanish tapas eateries, Pica Pica and BàRBAR. Edgar joins the Delish Guestlist to tell his story. As we've mentioned before, and we've met a few times, I know that you're a Catalan.
Yeah.
How does that come in your identity?
Well, it comes in my identity, the fact that, first of all, the language. In Catalonia, we speak Spanish. We also speak Catalan. And I think language really trims our identities very much. Languages tend to trim the way we communicate. You actually can. There are some studies that people that speaks German, they tend to communicate in a way how the language makes you. The words you have in the language, the words you don't have. So the language of Catalan trims how I am, and in a culinary side as well, because Spanish food is very regional. I think in this sense it's similar to Italian food or like Chinese food. 100 kilometers away from a point, you have a completely different recipe or one modification. Yes. No, even in Catalonia, being such a small place, you have variations of every recipe from a city to another city. The diversity of product you have in Spain, it's massive. Similar that what happens in Peru. Like Peru is such a small area, but then you have sea level and then you have 3,000 meter level. And at each altitude, you have a different source of ingredients. Spain happens kind of the same. We have 3,000 meters, we have sea level, and that gives you a lot of variety of products. There is a little story, if you allow me to explain. I don't know if I shared it last time. Andoni Aduriz, which is the chef of Mugaritz, a 2 Michelin star. He's a rock star, many years in Spain on the top. He's a guy who likes to question everything. He went to Madrid Fusion in Manila in a food convention that we went, I think, 6-7 years ago. And then so many representatives of the Spanish gastronomy were there in the Philippines, and so many people had came from Spain. And then he said, okay, 3 Spanish chefs, please raise your hand. So 3 Spanish chefs raised their hand and say, okay, what is a sofrito? Sofrito is it's kind of a Spanish XO sauce that we use to start dishes. We use that. You put that paste at the beginning, no? And then from that you do a paella. From there you do a stew, many dishes, but starts for that sofrito. It's just been slow cooked for a long time. At the end, it's like a jam. What is a sofrito? And then one chef say, a sofrito is tomato, garlic, and onion, and olive oil. And the others say, sofrito is tomato, garlic, and onion, and red pepper. And the others say, that, and paprika. No? And then we suddenly have 3 different sofrito recipes in 3 Spanish chefs. And then he said, okay, let's agree on the base, no? Garlic, olive oil, tomato. Let's agree this is the base. Why this is the base? This is the best combination of flavor we could find. Option A. Option B, this is what grandmothers or great-grandmothers 100 years ago had on hand. So your great-grandmother on hand had paprika, so she had paprika. Your one had that. Then everyone kind of the room agreed that was done that way because it was what it was available in that moment, or what it was bigger production what we had in hand. No? So he used that to question tradition. They call him always, he goes against tradition. He say, I don't go against tradition. I just think in 2023, with the logistics we have, my pantry should be much wider than what it was in 2001, where product from Japan would not arrive to Barcelona. If now I can get soya beans from Japan once a week, why I cannot add that into my pantry and into my cooking? No? So why am I explaining this? Because to show you how even with this story, we see that in Spain, even with 100 kilometer separation, recipes are different depending on what we have on hand. So me being a Catalan, even me being from Lleida, kind of makes the way I cook, because the tradition on that city, it's based on what we have on hand, which in the case of Lleida means mushroom, vegetable, poultry. So,
are you contributing your story of being a chef to the traditions that you followed in Catalan cuisine, and your family's history cooking? Is this something that's central to where you are and how you've got to your place as a chef right now?
I think during my career, yes. Right now with Pica Pica and BàRBAR, I think I've tried to put less of me and more of what I think is interesting for the market. During a time in my career, especially at the very beginning, I think most of chefs are very proud of who they are, and we want to have our own speech, and this is what we want to cook, and we want to make sure everything has a storytelling. Now, I think, yes, we need an overall storytelling, and I still follow it, but sometimes I just see what people want to eat in Hong Kong, how we can, from all the background we have, what matches into. I think I'm giving more importance now to the guests than to myself in the restaurants, Pica Pica and BàRBAR. We go in a bit mainstream, if you allow the word, but at the end it's because we want people to feel comfortable. I think during many years, restaurateurs or chefs have been expecting people to come and listen to what we have to say. But myself as a diner, I'm tired of going to listen to people. I just want to eat and enjoy and listen to my friends on the table, not to the chef.
Do you think along the way from the beginning where you started cooking in Spain and then came to Hong Kong, and then you also had some passages in Manila as well, do you think there's been a stress and a mental health struggle about that perfection, the artistic perfection, to, reach new heights? What is it that's been a challenge to you getting to this point?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a challenge. And you're following that perfection, which it's very personal. Because at the end, what is perfect for me, we're all seeking different things. So I want perfection on what I'm personally seeking for, what I'm looking for. But that may not be perfect for you. Or someone doing extreme fine dining will say, oh, why it needs to be perfect? You're just doing comfort food. But maybe for me, perfection means to exactly replicate that flavor of my grandmother on that specific recipe. So, yes, I will say even at some stages of my career, I've been kind of obsessed with that. Not obsessed, just looking for that, and it was like all or nothing. You getting exactly what you wanted? No, we fail. It's stress to, at the moment you cannot reach that perfection, to start questioning, is it because I'm in the wrong place? Should I change company? Should I do something else? Should I move to another country? I think chefs also during many years, or many chefs I know, we kind of justify our bad temper or things like, because we want it perfect. And yeah, but we want it perfect. And now I told by myself and I told by many chefs who I see, you want it perfect, but you don't want to be there at 10 p.m., right? And you don't want to be there at 8 in the morning cleaning the vegetables by yourself, right? You want it perfect, but you want your team to make it perfect. So you arrive there at the service, you go say hi to the clients, and you want everything perfect, but all the steps that happened before till the plate, you don't really want to be involved because now you are culinary director or executive chef. So I think it's a bit of hypocrisy that I found myself in, which at the end say, let's find a balance. It doesn't need to be perfect. As long as clients are happy and what we are giving is true, I kind of accepted a different type of outcome on my cuisine.
When you have experienced burnout, what have you done to counter those feelings and counter that experience?
Well, I haven't done. I think you learn usually the hard way. Like you are in a restaurant, things are not perfect, and you always try to find a reason why things are not perfect. With 99%, you don't see yourself as part of the reason. So you always see someone else's fault or a scenario fault or whatever. And then you change something. And then maybe you change a guy who you think it's 100% his fault because you explain him 3 times and you think you're doing the right thing. And 5 years after, you remember that guy and then you feel, he wasn't that bad. Actually, with my experience now, I will be able to manage him and lead him and teach him much better of what I did because his performance was probably part of my fault not being a good, explaining him well what I wanted. No? So I think I learned the hard way, but it wasn't something that exactly happened or I changed by myself. Like the first restaurant I worked in Hong Kong, it was 10 seats. BCN, Bill Street, in front of what now is Pizza Project. Very little place, me and another guy and me in the kitchen. And when I arrived, I saw the size. Say, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to make a P&L profitable with 10 seats? Then we need to do a very high volume of people to do tapas. So why don't we do less people? We charge more. I think we were charging around 100. Mm-hmm. And we do a tasting menu. We ensure everyone pays the same. And it was me and a guy, In that moment, I wanted everything perfect. My English was horrible. I was not even able to explain what I wanted. The guy was frustrated. I was frustrated with the guy. Nothing was how I wanted. At the end, the results came. The restaurant, I think we opened in April. By August, we were fully booked until October, I think.
Wow.
Because, sometimes in Hong Kong, people want what they cannot have. So they will call, no, we are full. Okay. I remember, sometimes they will say, okay, when do you have a table? 14th of October. Okay, book me for 14th of October. And they don't even know where they're going to be on 14th of October. They will just book. So we were full like that. Later, we had a problem that on the week, we will have half of the bookings were canceled because people completely forgot. But then we will, anyway, the story is we opened the place and I was so frustrated. I didn't enjoy the place there because I was thinking, this guy doesn't understand. I will just focus on, from the 10 courses we served, the sauce that was wrong, or the skin of the suckling pig that wasn't crispy enough, or the prawn that was slightly overcooked. And I will just focus on repeat to myself how I had the right to be very angry because look how bad is that. No? And now, 11 years after, I think that guy was great.
Do you...
I think that guy, and I think, sometimes I feel like, I wish I will be running a 10-seat restaurant now. Going there, and in that moment I feel so miserable, like, well, only 10 seats, I want to have something bigger. So, again, this, my own reflection trimmed myself. My own reflection of yourself noticing, like, it wasn't that bad. Maybe I was such an idiot.
You've spoken to me about a mental health struggle, about that level of perfection that really took you down and gave you stress. Would you mind sharing about that story?
So I was in BCN, as I say, small restaurant where 90% of my worries were cooking and make sure that recipe, that texture of the sauce was exactly the one I had in my mind. And if you don't, okay. Now I joined Maximal Concepts, which was kind of starting in that moment. I think Maximal Concepts was 2 years old in that moment when I joined them. We wanted to open a Spanish restaurant, but that company had many projects in line and the Spanish restaurant couldn't happen because we couldn't find the right location for it. So in the meantime, they asked me to start doing, okay, let's put the Spanish on hold, help us to open this one. Help us to open. At the end, I'm a very organized person. And setting up a kitchen is not that different Chinese than Japanese than making us a process, how we order, how we receive, how we trim, how we clean. I can do the roasters, I can order the ingredients, I can tell you if a chocolate is good or not. So I have things to add into the plate, into any type of restaurant. So I joined Maximal. And then Maximal was booming. And at the end, one day Malcolm, who is one of the founders, Malcolm, Matt, and Sean, Malcolm told me, look, the Spanish restaurant is getting delayed. Are you okay helping us to open other restaurants? Those other restaurants were Mod 32, Limewood, Stockton, Fish and Meat, Blue Butcher. So they are not only restaurants, they were landmarks in those times in Hong Kong, like Mod 32. We were talking about opening in that moment. Now Mod 32 is in Hong Kong, is in Vegas, is in Bangkok, is in London. So Limewood, it's been very busy. Brick House, all these kind of places. No? So they told me to do all that, Stockton and all this night. And to me, it was like a new wall as well. Always opening things. Maximal Concepts people was very cool. The team was very, very cool. I always felt on those brainstorms we will do, I was like the less talented in the room. So, when you are in a meeting and everyone is throwing ideas and say, fuck, these guys are so talented and everything. So, and then after the meetings, they will say, okay, let's go for a drink. So that led to kind of a bubble of going out, drinking, partying. Then everyone, tomorrow we will close Stockton at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning. And then 9 in the morning, we have a meeting all in the office and everybody will be there. And everybody was pushing. It's like we were all pushing. And mentally, I was loving it. But physically, my body one day say, no more. I remember one day being at Brick House, I wasn't even drinking alcohol. I was having a water, waiting for some friends. And then pressure on my chest, thinking I was having a heart attack. Queen's Mary Hospital. And I was like, I'm having a heart attack. Like a knife in the middle of my chest. And then Queen's Mary Hospital, they say, you're fine, sir. You have nothing. Okay. No problem. Then I think 2 months after, I think that was in Mott, or I think it was in Limewood. Middle of the service, Sunday, Limewood, taking orders, again. Knife in the middle of the chest.
Wow.
Taxi, Queen's Mary.
Really?
And then I told them, it's the second time, you got to check better. Because, and then they say, okay, we give you time to a cardiologist. And my family in Spain, I have a couple of doctors. They told me, maybe what you want to see is a psychologist. And I was like, what? I never had depression problems. I never had anything. I'm living my best life here. Like, I'm so happy. No, you got to take. And yeah, I went to see a psychologist, and they told me what you have is a panic attack, and what you're having is classic anxiety in the book. So what you have to do is to slow down. I was like, wow. To me, that was a shock. And then I struggled for a few months. I was trying to prove to the doctors, to everyone, that they were wrong. No, I don't have anxiety. I really have some problem in my heart. I will go to a stomach doctor. I will go to a cardiologist. I will go to everyone until someone tell me, yes, everything you are feeling is real. But it wasn't. And it was all stress. It's very funny. I learned a lot of stress in the past years. I'm still learning. But it's crazy because really all those symptoms, you feel them like real. You really feel it. You feel your heart really accelerates and makes some beats super strong. And in me, I felt I was dying. Like, fuck, I'm dying here now in Langlois.
Jeez.
So that was, then in that moment I felt it was no way to change that, stay in Hong Kong. You're working in the cool group with the cool kids of the F&B in Hong Kong in that moment. Black Sheep was starting. They had only Boqueria in that moment. Pirata didn't even exist. It was Maximal. And Black Sheep, they both starting. So I say, what I'm going to do now? I'm going to go work. Where I go work TST somewhere. And when people ask me to come Central for a drink, I say, no, what I do? And then, sorry, I had this very cool group in Manila called La Lola, very cool guys, 3 guys from Barcelona who were smashing it there with La Lola, with Rambla, with Las Flores. So one day I told them, look, if you ever have something in the Philippines interesting, let me know. Maybe I'd like to come. And Sergi, one of them, say, okay, you know what, we want to grow, and why don't you come as a corporate chef and we open more Spanish restaurants. By then, I have learned a lot on restaurant openings, after Mott and all those places. So say, okay, let me go to the Philippines. And to me, it was like a mix of 2 things. First, I thought the Philippines and these guys were very cool. And second, it was like my gateway of this. I thought it was going to be more relaxed than Hong Kong. But then in the Philippines, I realized the problem was not Hong Kong, it was my approach. So, but very quickly. Say, look, I'm in Manila now. I'm finishing working. I'm going home. I'm cooking a salad. Tomorrow morning, I'm going running. And after that, I'm going to work. Why I don't do that in Hong Kong? You know, so I say, what is stopping me to do that in Hong Kong? Nothing, actually. So that was my first revelation. That's when I realized why I don't come back, because as a chef, the resources you have in Hong Kong are much bigger than the resources you have in Philippines at this moment, starting by the amount of guests you have, the access. Manila is amazing, and working with Filipinos is amazing. They are the most friendly, they're super cool. But they have the logistics issue. Maybe your guests are in Makati, maybe your restaurant is in BGC. So I always, when I was in Manila already, I thought, my approach to Hong Kong was wrong. I should have done it better, but now, okay, lesson learned. And together with that, I had a talk with Sherman Tang, who's the owner of Epicurean, very experienced people in the F&B industry in Hong Kong. He's been doing this for many, many years. And I spoke with him a couple of times. And how to put this? When I was in Maximal, it was very focused on the story of things. Like Mod 32, it's called Mod 32 because on the number 32nd of Mott Street in New York was registered the first Chinese grocery, and today it's considered the starting of Chinatown.
Wow.
But then when I met Sherman is a older person, more old school. And what he's worried about is good service and good food. He has that kind of approach. Like he always say, if our food is good, it's priced properly, and our service is good, restaurants do good.
Sure.
And for me, this really reminds me of Spain. Because in Spain, restaurants don't have names that evokes streets of 30. No, you go to that place because that omelette there is the best one. That's very simple and that's Spain. And Sherman always remind me my family approach to F&B, which is honesty. We don't make up things. We don't bullshit people. If we say this is grass-fed, this is a grass-fed. If this is organic, it's organic. So it's a really honest, simple approach, which at the end is very difficult because you have to deliver, because there is no story around to distract you. And I really liked it. And then it just, everything made sense. I just thought he was the right person to do a simple tapas bar, because he knows how to eat very well. So I know he will appreciate simple food well executed. I say, okay, let's open one and let's see. He was very clear on what he wanted. I was very agree on what he wanted. It happened all very naturally. And we opened Pica Pica. It took us a while because I came back here. And as I say, Sherman is a more calm person, very experienced. So I'm very young, emotional. I want things to happen fast. I don't have patience. By the time I arrived to Hong Kong till the day we opened Pica Pica, we saw a couple of places. And any place I saw, to me, was the best place in the world to open Pica Pica. I remember we saw a 600 square feet place under the escalator. I said, "Oh, Chairman, this one is perfect," And he was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah. I guess I really was willing to do it. And then he was stopping me down, saying, "No, I don't think this is a good location." And then we find another in Singapore, and I don't think it's a good location. He was, and to me, I was starting getting frustrated. Like, my God, this guy, are we ever going to open, or what is happening? And then one day he said, "Go see this location. I think we found it." But that was 8 months, maybe. But I was sitting in the office.
Wow.
I was thinking, are they going to fire me? Like, and then he was like, don't worry. And then we found the space on Pica Pica. And we felt like that space would really fit what we wanted to do, this kind of street tapas bar. So again, I think it was in the right company with Sherman. My right moment, I wanted to do these tapas bars that I have never done before, bigger. Right location, good time for Hong Kong.
Hey listeners, I'm your editor Natsuki Arita, coming in to tell you that we are published by the Beat.Asia, the fastest growing regional publication for F&B news, event coverage, nightlife happenings, culture, and more. So find us at the Beat.Asia to feel the pulse of Hong Kong and Asia. Now back to Edgar.
Why does Hong Kong need good tapas food?
I mean, Spanish food in general is one of the most represented, how to put this? If you look at fine dining, let's say, gastronomy in general, no? Gastronomy has many areas. Fine dining, then we have the daily comfort food for everyone. But let's look first at Champions League, no? On the 50 best, I think on the top 10 at this moment, there are 3 or 4 Spanish.
Wow.
I think in the Michelin Guide, at this moment, Spain, if it's not the third one, represented country. I think, and in restaurants with stars, I think we have there on top, I don't know exactly now because every year may change, but I think you have France, Italy, Japan, Spain. Basically, are the majority. When we talk about top vanguard fine dining, now, when you look at comfort food, street level, daily, how many Japanese restaurants we have? How many French restaurants we have? How many Spanish? I think Spain is just gaining the representation that it should have had 10 years ago.
Makes sense.
So when we talk about, but not only that, if you go now, now all this molecular cuisine is a bit over. It's totally over. But there are certain techniques that remain, like a siphon, restaurants don't do molecular cuisine, but I'm sure if you go even to Bea, like Vicky and all these guys, everyone has a siphon in the kitchen. This siphon was invented in El Bulli. If you do a air with lecithin, with soy lecithin, and you do this kind of very thin bubbles to put on top of something, this technique is coming from El Bulli. When you do the sous vide that we call now the runner, majority of the development on sous vide machine was done in El Celler de Can Roca 17 years ago. So the impact that Spanish fine dining gastronomy had worldwide today in most of fine dining restaurants in the world, it's unknown by other cuisines. You can have it from French in the sense that if you want to consider everyone who does a mayonnaise, it's coming from, the mother sauce from France or bouillabaisse if you want to use as a base. So France has a lot of impact. But I don't think Italian restaurants had ever had, for example, an impact. Techniques developed in Italian restaurants worldwide had an impact in many other types of cuisines. It didn't happen. So that's why I think Spain, when we go to the top, it's a reference. It's still affecting, not affecting. It still has an impact on the tools and some of the techniques found today in French restaurants, Italian restaurants, Japanese modern restaurants. So it was a matter of time that the daily comfort food will arrive to the streets worldwide.
And boom, Pica Pica and BàRBAR.
Well, no, Pica Pica and BàRBAR and many more, and Chueca and La Paloma, and there are many. And before Boqueria and José Andrés in America, there are many examples of. So that's the first thing. No? I think so. Spanish gastronomy at its best has an impact on worldwide gastronomy, of course. But then also, if you look at the tapas itself, because all those guys I'm mentioning now, El Celler de Can Roca, El Bulli, none of them were doing tapas. They were just doing avant-garde, forward-thinking, cooking, using Mediterranean ingredients. But today, if you look at the way of eating tapas, it fits really Hong Kong or India or all this kind of food where, on the French serving, for example, you will go to a French restaurant, call it from bistro, street level, to Caprice, 3 stars, 4 seasons. No? The sequence is very similar and it's individual. Like you start with your amuse-bouche, and then you will have your entree, and then you will have your first course and your second course, and everything is individual. And your attention, if you sit on a table and you imagine yourself sitting on a table looking at your plate, your face is facing down, looking at your plate, no? Which I always find it's kind of the chef wants the attention on him, no? Because he's there. No? It's like you're looking at the chef, and the chef will tell the waiter, I want you to put the plate in this direction because I want It's really egocentric, honestly, no? This kind of dining experience, which nothing wrong with it. He's an artist willing people to listen on what he has to say. When we go to tapas, it's very similar experience than what you have in dim sum, very similar experience than you have in an Indian restaurant with the curries and all the food on the center of the table. When food is in center of the table, automatically you lay your face up because food is there. It forces an interaction because I have to serve you, or you have to serve me, or I have to ask you, do you want one more? So it becomes a social experience where ego doesn't play a role. Because when I go Pica Pica, I don't want anyone to talk, oh, look how the chef played that. No, you go to Pica Pica to talk with the person who's in front of you. It's a completely different experience. And I think that's why it has a place in nowadays society, because people lacks communication time. People is most of the time on their phones. And having a dining experience where your attention can be in the people with you on the table, not on the chef, it's very good. And it also, I think, helps friendships, helps social interaction, helps everyone sitting on a table saying, okay, who's having the last one? Come on, grab that one. Which you don't have this type of experience if you go to a single-plated tasting menu. It's a completely different thing. No? So, anyway, I think that's why tapas has always a place in any city in the world, because it's a social experience where, yes, you have good food, yes, you enjoy, you have a variety of dishes, but at the end, the most important thing in this is who's with you on the table, rather than the chef or the background of the chef or any of those.
Gotcha. Moving on to our rapid fire questions, Edgar.
Okay, I'll try my best to fire rapid.
You have less than 30 seconds to come up with a few words to answer each question. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's an underrated Spanish dish you'd like more people to know of?
Hilda.
Choose one thing that you think should be banned in all restaurants and one thing that must be compulsory in restaurants. Explain your choices.
Ban in all restaurants. Okay, let me start by compulsory. I think compulsory in all restaurants should be that whatever the menu states as organic or farm to table or must be true. I think there is no control on what restaurants say on their menus to be true. There is no control, there are no consequences. And many times I go to restaurants and such things as called as Wagyu or things, they are not such and there are no consequences.
And ban?
Ban should be people being able to don't show.
Good.
After a booking.
You've traveled around and lived in different countries in the world. Please rank the countries you've lived and worked in from best to worst.
Ooh, this is very difficult. Because best is Hong Kong. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Worst?
No, I enjoy them all.
I'll take that answer.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've enjoyed them all. What I'm going to say is Spain is the worst. It's an amazing place, or Philippines is an amazing place, or Japan is an amazing place. I think it depends on which parameter you want to focus on.
What is the most abnormal thing you've eaten that you feel most people haven't? How was it?
Oh, I hated it. This is easy one. This is the balut in the Philippines. I hate it. I hate that egg. Seriously, I don't understand. It has feathers and bones and it's disgusting.
Is there any...
Sorry, with all my respect if I offend any Filipino.
I don't know.
Sorry. That one I will say. This is, in my mouth, what it caused me the most discomfort. I put that in my mouth. I didn't like it. Sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody. But I will say in terms of aroma, is the stinky tofu in Mongkok.
I like stinky tofu.
I haven't tried it. If they could remove the smell, I could try it. But, I don't mind durian. I don't think why people is so obsessed with durian.
Can't stand durian.
I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me. But that tofu man in that corner near Ladies Market, I don't know. Well, in Europe we have our cheeses.
Of course.
We have our cheese, which also stinks, but maybe I'm used to it.
Is there any ingredient you used to hate as a child but now love?
Many. As a child, I was a very difficult eater. My grandmother says I survived thanks to milk. Because every day I will just keep drinking milk as another kid will drinking water. I'll just go and I didn't like... If I will find a piece of onion anywhere, I couldn't eat that anymore. Like for the classic pasta with tomato that all kids love, I love it until I find a piece of onion. Then I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't like vegetable, nothing. I think onion is a good example. Now I couldn't do a proper stew or anything without onion. I would always start it with onion and garlic and olive oil. And as a kid, I hated it. So many, many ingredients.
Have you ever messed up a dish? And do you remember what went wrong?
I don't know if I should say this in a podcast. But, Madrid Fusion. Very famous food. I was saying before, like a fair. No, is in Madrid normally, and they did it in the Philippines for a few years. Madrid Fusion is organized by Capel. Capel is one of food critic in Spain. We're talking about top gastronomy people in Spain. And then in that year, I think Jordi Roca from El Seidec and Roca was there, best pastry chef in the world. Who more was there? Mugaritz. That was the year of Mugaritz. And I was working already in the Philippines, and they asked us to do one dish with Philippine ingredients for the reception of all those people. No? So we're different restaurants, and this was paid by the Filipino government. And then we were given corn. Philippines, they have a lot of corn, so they told us, okay, make something with corn. And we say, okay. So we made kind of a cold cream of corn, but then we will add a lot of contrasts of Spanish ingredients. Like we will make a very thin, crispy tuile of chorizo, and then we'll put a slice of piparra, which is like a pickled spicy pepper, and then we'll put one popcorn. And so you will have this cold cream walking around with all these toppings. So we arrived to the convention, and then I see the restaurant where I work was preparing it. The chef, super talented chef, I won't say his name, but very, very, very talented chef, good friend of mine. And then he puts the corn on the table, and I say, there is bubbles on the vacuum bag. There are bubbles. No. Bubbles is fermentation. So there are bubbles. No, impossible. I blend it in cold. I tried the soup, and it was slightly sparkling. Slightly. We tried it. It was fine. It was just getting there, no? Philippines is very hot. People start entering in the room. Oh, if say we have to serve this. I mean, we have no fucking choice. So we had there, I don't know, everyone there had a Michelin star probably in that room, or was a food critic or whatever. So I say, whatever. So we just said, it wasn't bad to harm anybody, but you can feel the sparkling. So we put the glasses, we put the toppings, we serve it. We knew what happened, we knew what it was. And a couple of people say, it's very nice, and it has this kind of that spiciness, and it's from the piparra, or the chanil, and fuck, I want this to finish soon, everyone get out of here, let us go home. So I think that's the only time in my life I say, fuck, we fucked up. We really fucked up. We didn't harm anyone. I had a couple of those shots just to make sure, and everything was fine. But it was very funny. And actually, one of those Spanish food critics, he came to us and said, "There is this sparkling." And say, "Yeah, no, must be." The piparra is a pepper that it's pickled and it's very spicy, and so it also gives you this perception on your lips. But yeah, I'm sure someone knew. But look now. 20 years after that, or no, 10 years after that, look at Noma. They're fermenting everything. So it's like, joking.
What restaurant in Hong Kong do you wish everyone went to as their first introduction to the city? Just one.
This one is difficult because, of course, it needs to be a Hong Kong restaurant. And Hong Kong is very diverse. Finding one that represents everything.
Pick one.
It's very difficult. I'll say go to Mongkok or Jordan and to those street restaurants that, it seems that they are full, but then they keep adding tables. They're never full. Every time there are 20 more people, no problem. They set 5 more tables coming from nowhere. Those ones, and then have the crab omelette or the noodles or the clay pots in Mongkok. I think that's what I will miss if I ever leave Hong Kong. That's the only thing in Hong Kong I think I would not be able to get anywhere else in the world.
Makes sense. What is your proudest moment in your life?
My daughter, probably.
What would you be doing in life?
Man, I don't know. I thought this sometimes. I don't know. Maybe writing.
What is your guilty pleasure snack to eat?
I eat very simple. You know what I keep eating and I have to stop it? Chips, potato chips. I'm all the time eating potato. But not fries, huh?
Yeah.
The ones from the back.
Yeah.
I arrive home after... the last thing I want to do is to cook. So usually I like to make, with brioche or something, cheese sandwich. Just make a grilled cheese sandwich, butter. But then while I start preparing, I start with the chips. Then after I finish, I eat it with the chips. And after I have 4 or 5 more chips, it's completely unhealthy. I really have to stop it. I told my wife, please don't buy more chips because the more you buy, the more I eat chips.
Why do you wake up in the morning?
Well, now because my daughter cries. But yeah, that's a good question. I think I wake up because I need to go get what needs to be done. But I still have the dream. Honestly, if you ask me, and I don't know if that's a mistake, I enjoy my day, but I still see my day as a step to where I want to be.
So where do you want to be in 10 years' time? That's my next question.
Yeah, I want to be more in Spain than in Hong Kong. Still in Hong Kong. But what I've been doing for the past 10 years of being in Spain 2 weeks a year, this doesn't work for me anymore. So in 10 years, I like to know, in summer I go 1 month, and then in Christmas I go 2 weeks.
Nice.
Or another month. I like to relink to my culture. Yeah.
What are you cooking up in the coming months that you can share with us on the podcast?
I can tell you that in October. Because in the past 4 years, I've been in Spain 2 weeks. COVID and everything. So I think I'm lacking inspiration. I'm still cooking what I eat at home, which has been the same. So now in September, I'm going to Spain for a month, 3 weeks. And I'm really going to eat a lot in the countryside, the places where I grow, to see if I can reconnect with all that and get inspiration. So at this moment, I don't have anything that I'm going to cook right now. I'm willing to that trip to re-inspire me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. How was that?
Very good.
I loved it.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
I speak too much, man. You told me 1 minute, but I gave... Sorry.
Naughty.
Yeah. Sorry. That was good.
Keep your finger on the pulse and tap follow to keep up with the Beat Asia to hear more colorful chats and rich stories. This episode is hosted by Ruben Verabez. A huge shout out to Edgar Sanuy for coming on the Delish Guestlist to share his story. Our producer for this episode is Marcus Streamer, and we are edited by myself, Natsuki Arita. That's all for this episode. See you in the next one.